Construction makers.
So we're going to talk about Station. We really like this mechanic.
Yeah.
But it seems like it's been a bit of a flop. Let's talk about how Station works, the problem it was attempting to solve, at least in our view, and maybe what could have been done a little differently so that it would have succeeded.
Seems like a lot of Edge of Eternities went kind of under the radar.
Yeah.
And I think Station was one of the mechanics that, to me, I was like, this is a really cool addition to the game. So I hope that it's not, that Wizards doesn't see it as a reflection of the mechanic. And maybe it's just the reception of the set. I'm not sure.
All right, Forrest, what does Station do?
Station says, tap another creature you control. Put charge counters equal to its power on this, in this case, spacecraft. Station only as a sorcery.
Womp womp.
And in this case, I'm going to be reading Dawnsire's Sunstar Dreadnought. It's a 5-cost legendary artifact spacecraft. If it has 10 or more charge counters on it, it says whenever you attack, Dawnsire deals 100 damage to up to one target creature or planeswalker.
100 damage.
Oh my gosh, that's so crazy.
I feel like Gavin Valentine saw this in like a design file and he was like 100 damage. Pfft, I'm gonna do 10,000 damage.
If there's 20 or more charge counters, it becomes a flying 20/20 creature.
Okay, so that's what Station does. Let's talk about like what this mechanic is attempting to do, right? Like why make this mechanic at all? And the first thing is that there's this thing called the Queen problem. We've talked about it on the channel before. The Queen problem is basically in a game that has customizable pieces, right, where you get to decide how to build your deck or whatever, what is keeping you from just playing all queens or all of the best pieces? Richard Garfield came up with mana cost as one of the solves to the Queen problem. But there are other ones too.
Card limits.
Yeah, card limits in your deck.
Right.
Collecting's the other one. Is that
sure.
And also cards costing money, basically. But yeah, those ones are sort of outside the game. So Station, in a pretty elegant way, is sort of creating an additional resource that you can use to make really powerful effects a bit more balanced, right? So something like Uthros Titanic Godcore is a reprint of Tolarian Academy, except it comes into play tapped and doesn't work until it has 12. 12, right?
Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, why don't you just read it?
Uthros Titanic Godcore is a land planet. You know what's funny is that it's a planet, but it enters tapped. And I just feel like that's not very planet-like.
It's just tired. It's a
tired planet.
It's a tired. It's exhausted.
I don't know. I'm like, a planet sounds like it's fucking grandiose and awesome, and it's like, it still comes into play tapped. They were almost maybe a little too careful with these. This land enters tapped. You can tap it to add 1 blue mana, but it also has Station. If you station this with 12 or more counters, you can pay 1 blue and tap it to add 1 blue for each artifact you control, which is, yes, Tolarian Academy. I mean, I get it if basically they were worried you could play it and then station it immediately, and then immediately tap a bunch of mana.
Yeah.
But like there's a cost. You had to have that many creatures on the battlefield with a certain amount of power. Like, I don't know.
The other sort of design goal here, as we see it, is one that's a little more nuanced in that. So there's this thing called a set point in a game, and it's the sort of number that you balance the rest of the game around. In Magic's instance, it's your life total, right? In 60 card constructed play, that's 20 life. In Commander, it's 40 life. But as you sort of like power creep the game over time, you encroach upon that set point much faster, right? So formats get sped up as cards become more powerful, and you need to sort of come up with some sort of counterbalancing force to make sure that players have enough time to play the game. And so Station is sort of in the lineage of some other abilities or other card types that have tried to solve this problem, in that you're sort of saying, hey, here's an alternative use for your creatures besides just killing your opponent.
The other way that they've tried solving this in the past has also been pushing the set point back. So instead of giving players alternative ways of using their creatures as opposed to going to the opponent, they've been pushing a lot into life gain. I think they've maybe settled down on this a little bit, but for a while we were seeing a lot of food token generation. And spells that also just had life gain.
Had like you gain 3 life tacked onto them for some reason. Yeah, that I think that was a bit of the ham-fisted way to do this. Okay, so along the lines of the lineage of this idea, there's several other card types that have tried to do this before. The first being battles. We saw these briefly, I think in what is it? Brotherhood War? Brothers War? What's it called?
I think Brothers. No. March of the Machine.
March of the Machines. That was a set that existed in Magic at some point.
Invasion of Amonkhet. It costs 1, a blue, and a black. Is a battle siege. Maybe they'll have other types.
We'll see.
As a siege enters, choose an opponent to protect it. You and others can attack it. When it's defeated, exile it, then cast it transformed. And it has 4 points, essentially, for or 4 life that you have to deal to it before you transform it. And then once it transforms, it becomes something super cool that's not really relevant. But that's basically how battles work.
A couple reasons why this didn't really work out. One is that it's just weird. It's just complicated. Like, why am I playing a card and then giving it to my opponent and then attacking it? And like, why is it a battle? Like, it's just strange.
Flavor wise was very off. And I think I'm surprised kind of that this wasn't brought up more in testing. The fact is that you're entering a battle, but you're technically giving your opponent the area to protect.
It's weird. Yeah, it's just strange. And again, it's we've talked about this before too, where like flavor is not just fluff. There's a mechanical game design reason why you would want the flavor to match with the mechanics, is because it helps players remember what the thing is supposed to do. And I think these are like a really weird flavor mismatch to what it does. It's just strange. And so, this is one where it's like sort of in the positive, right? Where it's like, I'm going to play this permanent, and then I'm going to attack it, and it's going to prevent my opponent from losing health, right? Because I'm attacking my battle instead of attacking my opponent. There's another card type that was sort of made in this vein, and that's planeswalkers. And planeswalkers work almost in the reverse, where my opponent, instead of attacking me, is going to have to choose between attacking me or my planeswalker. I'm pretty sure most people are going to know what a planeswalker does, but basically it comes into play with a certain number of loyalty counters. You can use those loyalty counters to use some of the abilities on the planeswalker, which either will give them more loyalty counters, or you can subtract loyalty counters to use a more powerful ability. They usually like build up to an ultimate ability that has a substantial impact on the game. But your opponent can choose to attack them, and if they do, they lose a loyalty counter equal to the damage dealt. They can also target them with burn spells and stuff too. Planeswalkers were quite successful, and part of it is because they are very powerful. So I do wonder if this was the problem that they were attempting to solve with Planeswalkers, which may or may not be the case. This may have actually power crept the game more instead of achieving the effect of, okay, well, we're trying to increase players' set points, right? Because the effects and the multiple uses that you get out of a Planeswalker make them a very good part of sort of the economy side of the strategy circle, in that they're kind of their own little powerhouse that just provides you with a lot of value. Especially ones that create blockers that make it so it's hard for your opponents to kill them. Back to Station. Why do we think that this mechanic has not made that much of an impact at this point? Now, we will say that there's probably quite a bit of this being played in Commander, but as far as standard environments go and sort of the data that we can track, it doesn't really seem like this has done much.
There was about 34 cards printed in the set. And so if having 34 cards printed, and we're seeing like pretty minimal impact in most formats outside of Commander with these, then yeah, it kind of shows that maybe they went a little too easy on it, possibly. Because really the idea of why these can potentially provide a lot of good value is that they almost need to have some sort of an immediate payoff. If these cards don't have an immediate payoff, they just become significantly worse than any other card, basically. It's either that you're paying for a card that is eventually something you can invest in and get something, or you're paying for a card that's going to give you the thing right now.
Especially in a really competitive environment, the sort of forces that are put upon a card to be good is that, well, it needs to, if I'm spending mana on it, it needs to impact the game right now. Like you said, I think maybe they were just a little too careful with this. It's a new card type, so maybe they just had a hard time knowing quite where it was going to land. It does in some ways feel like this mechanic was almost from a bygone era a little bit, in that the way that they've sort of clamped down, it's okay, you got to tap the creatures and then you have to do it at sorcery speed. They're not really allowing players to get double dip much, right? Where if this was at instant speed, you could keep your creatures up to block, you could block with them, and then you could also tap them to station. And this is kind of reminiscent of a rules change that happened a very long time ago, where you used to be able to block a creature, put the damage on the stack, and then sacrifice the creature to get the sacrifice effect too. Of let's say the creature had a sacrifice effect, or you add like something in play that gets value from sacrificing, which made sacrificing creatures very strong. And it also like limited your choice, right? So it was like, I just get both of these things. I don't have to make a choice between, do I get the damage from blocking with this thing, or do I get the sacrifice effect? I still get the block, but I don't get the damage.
Yeah, I mean, really, the choice that you ended up making with Station seemed to be when you had creatures, you were deciding whether you're going to attack with that creature or not attack with that creature, and instead use it to station. So again, comes down to, are you attacking or not? If you're not attacking, you can station it, or you can keep it up as a blocker. But if it were at instant speed, like you're saying, essentially that choice just becomes, are you attacking or not? Because if you're not going to attack, you're just going to keep it up as a blocker and then use it at instant speed.
Right. There's no like choice. There's no trade-off there. And I think they tried to alleviate some of this, right? Because you can station with a creature that's summoning sick, right? But you're then making the choice of, do I need to keep this up as a blocker, or can I station with this now? And I do think that like there's potential here for a station card that's really good if you sort of have this aggressive game plan of, I'm going to play this creature, it's summoning sick, I'm going to tap it to station, and then I'm going to play, and then on my next turn, and when I untap, I'm going to attack with that creature now and play another creature and station with that. And I'm going to try to just race my opponent. I don't care if they're attacking me back.
The advantage that you have to get for investing in these has to be so huge that it's worthwhile. But even then, it's like
100 damage?
Yeah, you're right. That's huge. I forgot. It's 100 to a target creature.
Is it a creature or player?
Creature or planeswalker. So.
Oh, yeah. What the?
The advantage just has to be so huge that it's worthwhile. But really, especially in a 1v1 environment, there's so much more interaction between your opponent that like the chances of you playing a card that is now on the field as a permanent that goes untouched for multiple turns as you were trying to pay into it is just not likely. So unless there's some sort of a combo that you can do where you're going to play a card, station it immediately, and get the value for it, it's probably not going to see much play.
Well, and we see this with the warp mechanic, right? And in some ways, that it's so interesting. And one of the reasons why I think we like the design of the set so much is that these mechanics interact in a really great way, where you can like warp something in for an effect, station with it, and then it's gone. And like, yeah, there's definitely a weirdness with, I'm going to invest in this spacecraft or whatever it is to station it, and then my opponent just blows it up. Yeah, that's bad, right? But if it was like extra value that just sort of like fell off what you were doing with warp, right? Because it's here and then it's gone anyway. Then like you don't care quite as much that the thing got blown up. You know, it's still bad that you paid mana for the thing and then didn't really get an effect, and then it gets blown up. But like, it's not as bad as like, okay, I'm choosing between attacking or stationing. I'm going to choose to station, and then my opponent just blows the thing up in response.
What if they just made a bunch of them indestructible?
That could be good, or at least one, like one that's
that would
indestructible.
Fit like flavorfully too. Like it's just huge. Like
right, it should have been their like Death Star equivalent. That's not,
yeah.
Although then you need like a way to, fire a torpedo in the vent.
I was going to say, if you ended up, I mean, maybe it becomes too parasitic at that point if you have a bunch of indestructible spacecrafts, but then you have
They're
one
all
thing.
stationing each other.
You have one thing that then destroys a spacecraft specifically or something, so it like gets past or exile target spacecraft or something. But
so there's another little like subtlety here that I think was really good with how they chose to make this mechanic, is that it uses charge counters. And like, I do think that these station cards, I like that they have a lot of glue, right? And the glue is something that we've talked about before, where it's this way, it's a way for a card to sort of act as connecting factors between other cards, right? And I think these spacecraft, in a way, is a good place for you to store charge counters for just like some other reason. And I think what you're bringing up with an indestructible one would be really good at serving that purpose. Like, let's say you wanted to just like build up charge counters here, and then you're going to move them somewhere else, and like that's a very specific play pattern. But like moving charge counters around. These fit right into that kind of a strategy. So what do we think? Station, is it a success? Is it mixed bag?
I hope that Wizards keeps developing stuff like this in the future. But yeah, I understand if they were hesitant going into this. It seems like in a weird way they weren't, because they designed 34 cards with it. But it also does seem like, and like you said, maybe just not enough people have experimented with the design space. Maybe they were sort of designed more as this sort of like limited card that could bleed into Commander. One thing we didn't actually talk about is that it kind of fulfills something you were talking about with the Spider-Man set, is that it creates actually multiple points of investment. And so you can have kind of that first effect be something that is viable potentially in standard or limited, but you can have a greater effect that is probably not going to see standard or limited play. But if you invest enough in it in Commander, then you're going to be able to see those really huge bombastic effects.
Like I said, it does feel like this mechanic is kind of from a bygone era a little bit, in that when the game hadn't been power crept so much, you would have time to sort of like be dirtily, as we would call it, right? And like, oh, let me build up my charge counters before I get to do the thing, and that it was very like battle cruiser style gameplay falls exactly in this category, which fits great with the battleships and spaceships and stuff like that. That all flavor wise is very resonant and makes sense. I do think that they could have, we'll see, but it feels like they could have pushed the cards a little bit more. But yeah, I think given another iteration on these, I think we might see them really nail this as an effect. I think this is more successful than Battles in terms of getting people to do something other than just kill your opponent. But it is a really it's so hard to convince players to do something other than win the game. And investing in this and then having that not pay off puts you in a really bad position. These don't really even work in limited very well, from what I've heard. So like, maybe it is just a commander mechanic, and that's where we'll see this. And in that space, you're playing in a more casual environment. It's pretty interesting. It's cool.
I think it'd be interesting to see. I mean, obviously the mechanics in its current version of it, but it does seem like Planeswalkers is probably one of the best.
Right, and it's in the positive, right? That I think is what made Planeswalkers work so well. So maybe that's the lesson to take away for these kinds of things is like can you make this sort of all in the positive for a player without breaking the game, right? Because like Planeswalkers is pretty easy for them to be broken.
If you enjoyed listening to us talk about Station and why no one remembers what it is, please feel free to give us a little like and a subscribe, maybe a comment down below.
Also, come station our Discord. The link's in the description.
Good one.
All right, thanks for watching. We will see you next time.
Bye.